lot of people, I mean, you'll hear it a lot, especially in our movement, but a lot of people talk about, taking a city. I believe that this is the greatest biblical reality of how to take a city. But historically, even if you look at amazing men of God, I would be hard pressed to find one amazing man of God that didn't come to the place of utter dependency through waiting on God in prayer. Yes, sir.
What does that feel like? I mean, what does it feel like to be utterly dependent by waiting? Is it like something that you can see externally, like God, everything's going wrong, and so I just need you? Or is it like revelation? Or does it matter if it's good or bad on the outside? What does it look like? What am I shooting for?
Yeah. I think that wrapped up in your question is your guys' reality of, and I might be wrong, of like circumstances. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, to me, I don't know. I mean, did these people have jobs and families and you've got to believe that they had jobs and families and they had things that they were leaving behind for the opportunity of partaking in the promise, And I think what was happening was they were totally dependent on themselves, they were totally dependent on God, but they were also finding out to be dependent on each other inside the midst of community. Like they were all locked together in one room waiting on the same thing. And I believe that was the beginning of world changers that were saying, out of this little house, we're going to make it. And I just say that, Julio, like, I don't know what it looks like, but if you hang in there, we're going to make it. We're going to make it. I don't know what it looks like, but we're going to make it. Gordon, we're going to make it, man. If we just hang in there, we're all fighting for the same thing. I may not have all the answers right now. I may not have all the finances right now. I may not have all the time right now. I may not have all of the power right now, but I know one thing, we're going to make it. Does that make sense? So I don't know, practically what it looks like in your situation or even in my situation. My situation has been a process of weaning and stripping a lot of stuff to where I've gotten to the opportunity where I can start to lead people into this lifestyle of literally waiting, and where I can provide a covering where I feel like there's a safe covering, partial, it may not be the safest covering, but at the very best a partial covering where people can have protection to enjoy that kind of freedom to wait. I mean, especially, and I'll just say this, it is the most offensive message, I believe, in Southern California right now. Everybody's going 1,000,000 miles an hour to nowhere. Everybody's flying so fast, but they have nowhere to go. And they're trying to, find something else to satisfy. So let me finish, and then I'll talk about that a little bit more. But I think we'd be all hard-pressed to find one man of God that didn't come to a place of just significant hours a day of waiting on the Lord, of prayer and fasting. John Wesley, 4 a.m, every morning of his life, would wake up. Jonathan Edwards, he would go preach, and we all know his preaching, but it's said of Jonathan Edwards that he would wrestle with God 12 hours a day. And I believe that the key to taking a city is not that a Jonathan Edwards, Todd Bentley, the same thing. He would read these testimonies and he would pray 7, 8, 9 hours a day. He would say, if this man did it this long, I'm going to do it this long. He understood, and God showed up with power. But what if we come into a place of a corporate reality of waiting on God like they had in Acts 2, where it wasn't just Julio getting endued with power from on high, but it was literally we entered in as a community. I believe that this is the key to taking a city, where we get filled with so much power, where we have such an encounter that literally the city shows up at their doorstep to say, what must I do to get saved, basically? What in the world is happening? They hear a sound and we're not preaching a message. I mean, that I've yet to see. And I don't believe we're going to have another Pentecost. I believe the unprecedented movement has been historically replicated, but Pentecost was the fulfillment of a season, and I understand that. But I believe that the unprecedented movement of the Spirit has been repeated throughout history since Pentecost. Does that make sense? In Azusa Street and in the Welsh revival and in different places, the Hebrides revival and down the road. And I think that this is where the church is in terms of tarrying, and this is where I think I came to in my heart, was we shout at the devil, but nothing happens. And this is where I started at. Is like we'll have good prayer meetings and we'll have good conferences and we shout at the devil. I rebuke the devil, and we see little to no effectiveness outside of maybe our little sphere. And I think we've got to come to a place where the disciples came, where they said, Jesus, we went out and we preached the gospel, but some of these demons didn't get cast down. And we've got to come to a place where we get real with the Lord and say, God, why am I shouting at the devil and it's not moving?